people who went to the hospital for having something stuck up your butt. What is your story? I worked in the ER for 10 years and I have a lot of these. But my favorite was a rolled up newspaper with staples in it wrapped in duct tape. The staples ended up shredding his colon and he needed emergency surgery. But when the doc asked him what happened, he just sheepishly said he really likes the news. Got a feeling OP has to go to the ER and needs a good cover story. My Phil has worked in commercial construction for 40 years or so. He said that his crew was putting acoustical ceilings in a building and break time rolls around. He climbed off the end of the scaffold they were working on. His help turns around backwards, puts his hands on the scaffold and kind of vaults himself off the scaffold backwards. There was a piece of one conduit sticking out of the ground about 36-40 where the electricians hadn't cut it off. He landed on it. It went up his ass around 8-9 deep and they all ran over and helped pull him off of it. He almost died but somehow made it. They rushed him to emergency surgery and stitched his asshole back together. He literally got torn a new one. Edit. The scaffold Olay dude vaulted off of was 6 feet high. Lots of velocity to get penetrated in the rectal circuit by conduit. I used to work for a doctor's office for multiple general surgeons who were on call for our local hospital. Every month I scanned at least 3 to 4 hospital notes into the system about people having things stuck in their anus colon. My favorite story was from the guy that claims he was cleaning his house while naked and accidentally sat on the handle of the Swiffer he was using. Other noteworthy items: a hard-boiled egg, an entire beer bottle, a bottle of vitamins, multiple instances of Sharpie's markers, a flathead screwdriver. This one became a serious issue as it traveled really far and perforated the patient's colon. A very large deli pickle. If you're into an L play, that's nothing to be embarrassed about. But for the love of God, please use toys that are specifically designed for the purpose and won't get lost. Avoid using anything without a flared base, including dildos designed for vaginal penetration that don't have something on the end to block you from clenching that sucker right past the sphincter of no return. My ex-wife worked as an OR nurse and she said that one night this guy came in with a glass sphere paperweight stuck up his butt. He had had it up there for days, so he needed emergency surgery to remove it. The wife requested to have the paperweight returned because it was a family heirloom. If it wasn't a family heirloom before, it certainly was after that. When I was a general surgery resident, I've taken out a lot of things stuck in people's rectums. Cucumber, corn on the cob, dildos of course, and Barbie dolls. Only one person just honestly said that he was doing it for pleasure. Everyone else said that they slipped and fell. Trust me, nobody believes that you were the one in a million that happened to run through a cornfield and then fall on a corn that then got stuck in your butt. Nobody. An X-ray tech that I knew told me that someone came in with a lot of blood coming out of his behind. He said that he was sledding down a hill and noticed there was a wheelbarrow at the bottom of the hill with the handles facing the uphill. Instead of rolling off the sled, he hiked his legs up over his head and went arsehole first onto the wheelbarrow handle. Poor guy made up arsehole and wheelbarrow's attack story instead of just admitting whatever he really did. And somehow he was sledding without pants on. Edit. Same guy also said someone shoved an entire softball into themself. What a day to be able to read. Isn't there a coffee table book of ass x-rays? Yes. Reminds me of Scrubs where they interviewed a few characters who shoved stuff up their butt. The excuses were typically I fell on it until this one dude nonchalantly said I was bored while shrugging. I'm an OR nurse, and I've assisted with removing a lot of things from butts over the years. But to their credit, each patient was straightforward about how things got there. The most memorable for me was a guy who had a shaving cream lid stuck, which implies that the whole can was up there at some point. He came with his girlfriend, and apparently his mom showed up to the ER. So as we were rolling him into the OR, he pulled me down and said, "Listen, obviously my girlfriend knows what's going on, but please don't tell my mom." I relayed this to the surgeon, and later in the day asked him what he told the family. He said he told them the dude had an intestinal blockage and he cleared it. Because technically correct is the best kind of correct. Pro tip from someone who worked in the ER. We respected people who admitted they stuck it up their ass but would always laugh at those who said they fell on it and exchange stories during breaks. This probably doesn't meet your expectation for a stuck up your butt story. But when I was 10, me and a friend were playing seesaw on a large piece of unfinished lumber. We decided it would be fun to jump onto one side from a low-hanging tree limb, which would subsequently launch the other person into outer space. When it was my turn to be launched, I slipped, and instead of flying off, I got thwapped in the nuts and 6 inches of a splinter up my ass. Worst emergency room visit ever. First true story of someone slipping and ending up with things in their ass. Congratulations. I've heard a lot of these stories working for years in ER. The worst is about a guy that managed to put inside his ass a pretty big frozen fish, head first, so that a few hours later the fish defrosted and all the spines started to get stuck in the guy's rectum and it was impossible to remove it. So he had to get operated on. Yikes. Another one is about a guy who was playing with a little ceramic virgin statue and somehow it got too deep and came asking for help to remove it. But he never admitted that. His story was that he tripped and fell with the ass on floor and it got inside accidentally. Edit update. The guy didn't have to pay anything, because this happened in Spain and we have 100% free healthcare. He showed up in ER only after the fish defrosted. It seems he was happy at home with his buttfish, and the pain and trouble appeared when he realized he wasn't able to pull it out. Virgin statue. Not anymore. My story isn't so much about something stuck up my butt so much as it is about a stuck butt. I was born with a condition called imperforate anus. Basically it means my butthole never developed. So technically I was born without a butthole. I like to joke and say that I was born not giving a shit. The way doctors fixed this for me was they ripped me a new one. Lol. They performed a colostomy on the left side of my waist so I can expel waste. I know what you're thinking. That's not where a butthole goes. I agree. Seems like a cruel prank but I digress. After about a year, they reroute the opening they made with the colostomy to where it should have naturally formed. TLDR. I have a man-made asshole. MMA for short. My grandmother once worked in medical records and she told me about a file she read through mentioned a guy who came to the hospital with a tennis ball stuck up his ass. The guy's comment on how it got there was he fell on it. Come on Barbie, let's go party. I didn't go because I had something stuck up there, but I ended up with a finger up there. They thought I had appendicitis and for some reason had to put a painkiller tablet up my bum. I was 14 and they rolled me on my side and my mom was sat right there watching me get fingered. It took them a few goes and at one point the doctor, I hope it was a doctor, no one checked, said I can't get it up there because you keep tensing and I said I keep tensing because I don't want you getting your finger up there. Eventually they put it in and I could feel it dissolving and fizzing away. I asked how long it would take for the pain relief to kick in and he said about the same time as a normal painkiller, so I asked why didn't you just give me a normal painkiller then? And he just shrugged and walked off. I think he was a doctor, but we really should have checked. Worst dentist ever. One time I got a bunch of heroin stuck up my ass. This was back before I got sober. I was pretty nervous because of health reasons and because it wasn't my heroin. I eventually got the heroin out of my ass and 2 days later I was in rehab. Been sober ever since. 5 years. Heroin will make you do weird things, like shove heroin up your asshole. Finally my time to shine. As a kid first discovering masturbation, I, a male, decided to try sticking things up my ass. It felt more like a massage and not as enjoyable as people made it out to be. Anyway, I decided to try sticking batteries up my ass because maybe it's like an L-beads. So there I was in a shower shoving double A's up my ass like the idiot I was. I did not think of how I would be getting them out. I decided I was done and decided to shitty them out. Only 2 of the 5 came. I'm thinking oh shitty, Hell, because my family would never let me live it down and many are religious. I decided I would rather die from internal battery acid before going to a hospital. So there I was in a shower trying to shti batteries like I'm a ducking Autobot freaking out. After much strain the last one barely came out. The relief is like nothing else and I will never stick another thing up my ass. TD. LR. I got batteries up my ass and they were not leaving. Could not let family know. I once knew a guy who knew someone who accidentally managed to get nail beads wedged up in there and he had no idea how to get them out. I used to work for a GI practice. A couple months after I started working there, we were celebrating the birthday of one of the doctors who worked there. Someone had brought a cake with a weird design on it. It looked like a gumball machine. I asked if that was what it was. And my co-workers laughed and said no, it's a lava lamp. I said, oh, does he collect lava lamps? They all burst into laughter. And finally one co-worker explained that very recently when the doctor was on call at the hospital, he got a call about somebody who had a lava lamp stuck up his butt. They also gave him a lava lamp for his birthday. Sitting in the first aid station at a busy ski resort with a broken elbow, you hear many things. Largely uninteresting. But some good weird stuff too. As I sat there, feeling generally pretty sorry for myself, a man was brought in. Face down on a stretcher. Whimpering. Apparently he had fallen and ski patrol went after him. Well, ski patrol wasn't on form and they lost control, crashing into him. And one of their ski ice went straight up his ass. Shredded pants and a brutalized butthole. This was quickly overshadowed as a guy was brought in shortly afterwards who'd gotten his throat slashed by the edge of a ski. Nothing arterial. But it was a pretty gnarly sight. Realizing the red scarf his buddy had pressed to his neck wasn't red. I've done anesthesia for about 15 years and have seen lots of these things come to the table. People almost always come in really late at night. They wait too long to come and sometimes just come in and be honest. I've had people refuse to tell us what it is we are going in after. Perry Ellis 360 red cologne bottle. I'm looking at you. I'm not judging you. I just want to know what we are going after because it matters how we try to grasp it. Advice. Don't make your own SX toys. I've seen flashlights with golf balls taped to them. I've seen soda bottles. They make lots of things for this exact purpose. Many of them have handles or loops for extraction. Always have a plan for extraction. And don't ever push it all the way in thinking you can get it out. And if you come to us for help, don't tell me you were vacuuming naked and slipped on an orange and fell on the pepper shaker. That isn't how anuses work. Yes, this happened. Took care of a dude who did some Valentine stuff with his wife. Double-sided DLDO. Perforated his colon. Overheard him telling the boys that visited him, IDK, I was taking a shti and I just got this really bad stabbing pain that wouldn't go away. Full stop. Never tell the boys the truth. Bro code violation number 69. Used to work for a general surgeon who once had an old man come in with a large Hillshire Farms summer sausage stuck inside himself. He had tried to pass it on his own but it was starting to decay inside his rectum. They had to surgically remove it. And it started coming apart as they were trying to pull it out. A huge mess of a situation. Then there was a college girl who had a large green DLDO stuck past her sphincter and the doctor had them wash it and return it to her after he got it out. Oh. And then the young dude that had literally sculpted a pool noodle to look moderately DCK like it broke off. The pathology report read oscillage yellow section of children's flotation device used for poolside entertainment. Apostrophe. I miss that job. My cousin is an X-ray tech and he told me that one night a guy came in with 2 ducking Idaho potatoes stuck up his ass. He said he slipped in the shower and fell on them. Yeah. Okay buddy. I want to jump in just for fun. Didn't go to the hospital. First time my dude and I ever put anything more than a finger in my butt. I'm almost 30. A reasonably small vibrator. It's called an egg, I think. So you can imagine the shape. It had a stupid flimsy little rubber band type pull out cord thing. So after we're done I panic because that thing is gone. I had a hold of it while we were going, but you know. So I'm about to cry and have to squat down and shitty this thing out on my bathroom floor while he's in the shower. I'm shaking as I'm digging up into my butthole trying to grab this slick, round, seemingly endless silicone orb. After about 10 minutes of totally undoing what was just done, I was able to find the little rubber band handle and get that bloody, little chicken egg out of me. Not mine but a cousin. He was fishing with his family and while having some fun he decided to try and jump off the boat and land on a log that was floating near them. As you can guess, he fell off the log and landed butt first into the water. At first we thought he was screaming cause the water was chilly and he had just fallen into it. But here's where we get to the butt stuff. For those who are unaware, catfish have a couple of hard protrusions on them that will puncture flesh. My cousin landed butt first on said protrusion and got his rectum protruded. After cutting the catfish off of him, leaving the horn in his rear, they drove him to the hospital. He had said to the receptionist that he had a catfish stuck in his butt multiple times because he was too embarrassed to say it louder. As an ER doctor, the most common explanations I get are 1. I sat down on it accidentally and 2. I accidentally fell on it. The most impressive thing I've seen. Size 13 Adidas slipper. Not my story. However, I am a healthcare provider and treated a patient who came to the hospital with a vase in their rectum. They swore up and down that they have no idea how it got there. And it must be witches. One of my friends was moving and putting things into a storage unit for a bit. He and his dad took the moving truck to the storage place and were unloading things. Got all the kitchen chairs off the truck and set them next to the truck for his dad to carry into the storage shed. Decided to man it and carry down the kitchen table by himself. Picked it up and started to carry it backwards down the ramp. Lost his balance. Fell off the ramp onto a chair. Of course. The chair broke. The chair leg punctured through his butt cheek. And missed his rectum by centimeters. He of course got mad. Pulled it out. Gathered his wits. Drove himself home for a shower. Dad laughing at him. All before going to the hospital where he had to have surgery to clean out the wound. Thankfully, since he missed his rectum, he missed out on the colostomy bag. But it was close. Fun twist. He was a nurse at the hospital, so no one lets him live down the "I really fell on it" moment. My friend was an OB-GYN and gay in SF when whispers of someone in the ER who got fisted with a shot put and now a 8-pound shot put is stuck up his ass and they're gonna operate. He grabbed his forceps and raced down to ER, and instead of cutting the poor man open, he delivered the 8-pound shot put. Long time ED nurse here. Patient comes into the emergency department piecing blood. Like, really piecing blood. Not just a little bit. Says he's been having trouble for a while. Days have passed since he fell ill. Also, complains of lower abdominal pain. Very low. Bladder area low. This guy looks sick as hell. We know he's bad off. I'm concerned he has bladder cancer. And he's a smoker. Has some more risk factors. This man is not a young man. So, we get CT of abdomen and pelvis and some labs. White count is really high. He's in a lot of pain. At the least. He has a bad infection. CT scan shows some light, white, bony structures. Some are connected. Some aren't. Turns out, this man put a small snake in his penis head first. Shoved it way down in there. And then would pull it out. With the scales pulling against the gain in his urethra. The tip of the snake's tail broke off. Or maybe he just let it go in too far. There was a dead snake in his urinary bladder. I was having a good ole time in this thread and then here this one came. I work in an ER. I've seen vibrators, doorknobs, vegetables, fruits, etc. shoved up SS. I work in and around operating rooms. Bicycle tire pump. Travel sized shampoo bottle. Whole light bulb, intact. Large Kong chew toy. 5th of Captain Morgan. Lost a bet. So I had to shove an eggplant in there and hold it in for 30 seconds. Long story short, 30 seconds turned into 9 hours and a bit of surgery. The worst part is, I still haven't gotten back my $20. I hooked up with a random girl after a night out at local dive bar. After a while of fooling around, she put an L beads in me. One by one, nice and slow. Taking them out was the opposite. She tried to start me like a pull start lawnmower, breaking the string that connected the beads and leaving them up inside of me. I didn't have to go to the hospital, but instead let her dig at my ass for an hour until she was able to get them out. Most recent was a meat tenderizer. Not the handle. That was outside. They were like a meat popsicle. Not quite the same. But I once had a patient come in because he folded up a playing card and inserted it all the way into his urethra. Not me. But my mom used to work in the ER. A dude in his late 60s came in with a salt shaker in his butt. After they got it out, she found a pamphlet about the benefits of lowering your sodium intake and gave it to him. This is my type of question. I am an all nurse and this young guy stuck not 1, not 2, but 3 apples up his ass. The surgeon was only able to remove parts of one through the rectum and he ended up needing a colostomy bag. Also had an elderly patient come in for surgery due to sticking salad tongs up her ass. She had closed the salad tongs and they were attached to a part of her colon that was hanging out of her anus. Luckily she didn't have any trauma and she went on her merry little way. My dad was an RN and he said that these happen more often than you think. Worked with a doc during residency who took care of a guy who had a DLDO or vibrator stuck up his ass. Evidently his girlfriend supposedly got mad and stuck it up his ass when he was passed out. He couldn't get it out. So he drove multiple hours with this stuck up his ass to avoid seeing anyone he knew. Doc couldn't get it out in ER and had to put him under general anesthesia, so decided to keep him overnight to monitor. Patient got up to the floor for observation and ended up that his nurse went to high school with him.